What's going on, everyone? It's Diane here with the latest in trucking news. So, today we're going to talk about the rising theft rates and the trucking industry's rising driver shortage. Now, let's get to it. Supply chains around the world have been massively disrupted over the past few months. The more the supply chain is backed up, the more cargo you are going to have sitting. And this creates bigger opportunities for thieves. Cargo theft involves stealing trucks and transport trailers full of merchandise. After stealing the vehicles or trailers, the criminals offload the cargo, which can be worth thousands of dollars, parcel it, and sell it for quick profit, often before the crime is even reported. This year's prime target? Electronic goods and refrigerated food. CargoNet on Thursday reported 359 supply chain theft and fraud incidents across the United States and Canada in the third quarter alone in 2021. There were 294 theft incidents that involved theft of a trucking vehicle or a semi-truck or theft of cargo. This is a 19% decrease from the third quarter of 2020. But 2020 was a record-setting year for theft, and when compared to the third quarter of 2019, theft reports are up 13%. If cargo theft goes unreported, property recovery and prosecution becomes a challenge. Cargo theft cheats consumers, retailers, insurers, and trucking communities, and wastes law enforcement's resources. Theft reports along the west coast of the US increased by 42% year over year. California continues to struggle with frequent thefts of high-end computer electronic shipments. Other parts of the country saw a drop in theft in the third quarter of 2020 compared to the third quarter of 2019, while each region saw a 16% increase the third quarter of 2020 compared to the third quarter of 2019. The Northeast saw the biggest drop in reported theft, with a 74% decrease year over year. This is due in part to a decrease in full truckload cargo theft in the New York metropolitan area, as well as enforcement action against an interstate trailer burglary ring that frequented truck stops along Pennsylvania's I-81 corridor. Theft reports in the Southwest fell 32% year over year in the third quarter of 2020. But that was after an astounding 246% surge in the previous quarter. The changes were caused by crime in Texas, and we attribute the drop in crime to police activities against organized crime rings located in Illinois and Texas, according to CargoNet. Cargo thieves continue to show a strong preference for computer electronic shipments, with California accounting for roughly 70% of all thefts in the third quarter of 2021. Household product thefts, on the other hand, decreased by 63%. Owing to fewer pilferages detected by CargoNet. CargoNet anticipates that theft activity will continue high as we enter the fourth quarter of 2021. CargoNet stated, "We are concerned about computer equipment shipments shipping from California being targeted, as well as a surge in full truckload cargo thefts spreading over the eastern side of the United States." According to CargoNet, almost 45 million in cargo thefts were recorded in September. For the entire year of 2020, criminals targeted toilet paper and personal protective equipment, costing over a whopping $68 million. According to the estimates published by CargoNet, cargo theft totaled $49 million in 2019 prior to the pandemic. With the general public under pandemic stress, the rapid increase in stealing is predicted to continue until 2022. Despite this, thieves aren't causing the most havoc in ports or train yards. Instead, more cargo is stolen from trucks through pilferages, which occurs when thieves steal only a portion of supply load from parked vehicles, such as a few pallets or a pallet, while truckers stop on their approach to a distribution center or warehouse. Pilferage is particularly difficult to detect since drivers typically don't discover missing cargo until they come to a complete stop a long time after the crime has occurred, and they don't know which law enforcement to report the theft. Consider the shipment of products from California to Texas. The average driver makes 4 to 5 stops along the way. Thieves usually take a portion of the cargo, and drivers frequently don't notice missing products until they unload at the end of the route. Experts say it's tough to report where products are stolen because they don't know where they were taken. As a result, the driver will have no idea what had just happened. So then, who do you report it to? Well, you don't have anyone to report it to if you can't tell them where it happened. Global supply chains are still recovering from the whiplash caused by city lockdowns governments imposed in 2020 to contain COVID-19. Initially, lockdowns in China shuttered factories, which stalled much of the supply side in global shipping. Then lockdowns in the US prompted a surge in demand as people ordered electronics and gadgets to facilitate working from home. Now tell us, what are some of the ways you stay safe from theft on the roads? This all becomes such a difficult problem for truckers and their employers as stock goes missing, insurance premiums go up, driver safety is in jeopardy, and consumers now will have to wait even longer for those items to be replenished. Theft affects everyone, as if the supply chain wasn't already badly hurt. Speaking of hurting the supply chain, the shortage of drivers is becoming more and more apparent as days go by. The trucking industry is desperate to get drivers into seats at a time when the supply chain needs them the most, but a variety of factors is stalling the industry's ability to gain traction. Top among those factors is the Drug and Alcohol Clearinghouse. Since January 2020, when the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration began recording substance abuse violations in the clearinghouse database, over 91,000 drivers have been taken off the road for testing positive or refusing to take a test. That number is expected to hit 100,000 before the end of the year. While this is considered proof that the clearinghouse is doing its job, keeping unsafe drivers off the road, it is also increasing pressure on carriers trying to deal with the unprecedented freight demand. We've lost, at least temporarily, 44,000 drivers so far in 2021 to drug or alcohol violations, which really stings when freight is sitting at the dock waiting to be picked up, said P. Sean Garney, the Transportation Consulting Co-Director. With only 21% of drivers disqualified from driving a commercial motor vehicle, taking steps necessary to get back behind the wheel, the industry needs to continue to be creative to fill seats. Well, the Canadian Trucking Alliance is preparing for the largest image campaign in the association's history. Social media campaigns will start targeting young people as labor shortages continue to rise. An aging workforce, training hurdles, and lack of interest in the field have been mentioned as relevant causes. One of the most popular solutions was to improve the industry's image and to make it more appealing to the younger generation of workers. With the many problems happening with the driver shortage, some solutions are better than none. Let's ask Ronan how he feels. Ronan, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Ronan, why do you think there's such an age gap in the trucking industry?
Well, that's a really good question. So there's two reasons for that. Number one is because people are under the illusion that self-driving trucks are around the corner. And the second thing is that truck driving is just not appealing anymore. The wages that a truck driver makes is just not appealing to the newer generation. So if you told somebody, when they're 25, 30 years old that they're going to be making $80,000, $90,000, well, that's just not appealing anymore. So just an example of that. So when I got into the industry, is about 15 years ago, truck driver wages for cross-border drivers were about 42, 45 cents per mile. Well, today the driver wages are about 60 to 65 cents per mile here in Canada. Now, if you look at real estate, if you look at anything over the last 15, 20 years, well, it doubled, if not tripled. So if we look at housing, it's tripled up. If we look at, products that we buy at the grocery stores, that at least is 2.5 times more expensive when we're looking at a product that was being sold 15 years ago. But the truck driver wages have not doubled up. I mean, they've only gone up by 40%, by 30%. So there's definitely a gap in that, and it's not appealing to new drivers. So if you told me that, if I was thinking or considering an industry, and if I was looking to become a truck driver, and truck drivers only make, 70, 80, $90,000 at most, by not owning your own truck, then that's not so appealing to me. If you told me that I was making 3 folds like it was in the 90s or in the 80s, when truck drivers used to make probably 3 or 4 folds what the average person would make, well, that's very appealing to me. So if somebody told me that, I was going to be making 300,000 and then the average pay, across Canada is probably 50, 55K, and I was gonna make 200 or 250K, well, that's an industry that I would wanna get into.
And what about women? Do you think more females will be inclined to be truck drivers in the near future?
Well, in our channel, we're definitely trying to appeal to more women and letting them know that, through Adela's story, through Chelsea's story, we kind of record their journey, and it's kind of empowering other women out there, letting them know that, this industry is also for women. It's not just for men. So we are getting a lot of inquiries from women, and we hope that through these videos, it's going to empower other women or women that are thinking of getting into the industry, that these videos will kind of motivate you and show you that it's okay. This industry is not just, it is male dominant, but we are seeing a little shift right now, and hopefully through this channel and through other channels and through, women will kind of inspire one another and get them into the workforce, and a much needed workforce that needs your help. Women out there. I mean, this is going to take you back to the time of World War II, right? So right after the war, who did we depend on? We depended on the women during the war and after the war. That they entered into the workforce, and they kind of helped us through that transition period. And I think that this time around, the same thing might happen.
Thanks, Ronan. We'll talk to you later. So what changes do you think the industry needs in order to fill these seats? Do you think an improvement in the trucking industry's image will be appealing to the younger generation? So tell us some solutions you have for the driver shortage. Leave us a comment below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. This is Diane Gagne. Stay safe, and we'll see you next week.